Blessings, guys. It's Ray Ray. So thankful that you have made it this far on this course, and I'm super excited for contact, as many of you are as well. Hopefully, thus far, you've been given some tools which can help prepare you for the interstellar interactions that are going to be occurring between extraterrestrial civilizations and mankind. And this is really the topic of this week as well. Okay. We're going to be covering some of the ways in which the extraterrestrial beings are already in contact with us, but also some of the ways in which the extraterrestrial beings are actually going to introduce us to other forms of contact as well that occur, usually between them and other members of the Interstellar Alliance as well. You see, because these civilizations are far more advanced than us, not only physically, but spiritually, mentally, on every level. And, it's a well known fact that we don't use the full capacity of our brain. Okay, human beings do, like, we just don't know how to do that. We haven't evolved to that point yet. Okay, so they're also going to be teaching us a lot more about the brain that we simply have either overlooked or simply just haven't had the awareness to realize yet as a collective consciousness as well. Okay. So, yeah, vocal and telepathic communication. Okay. Obviously, we human beings use, for the most part at least, our voices to communicate. Telepathy is something that has been achieved by a very small percentage of people. But let us just discuss what this actually means on a deeper level here. Even Bashar has said in the past that telepathy is actually telepathy. So it's a shared form of empathy between one person and another. And when you're in love with someone, especially, you are always reading each other's minds. You're having the same thoughts at the same time. You're finishing each other's sentences. This is something that's very common. So we do have the capacity to actually experience telepathy and telepathy, especially on a much more deeper level. We just don't really know how to put it into practice and kind of sharpen the knife of that tool just yet. Okay, there are entire civilizations out there who actually communicate solely through telepathy. They don't even use their vocal cords at all. Okay, and we're going to be introduced to many of them. Even many people who have had, extraterrestrial contact with certain beings, like myself, have experienced it as well. My future self from Sirius, he came to me, the one who, channels through me. He came to me and he spoke to me telepathically. But I felt this also, just this overwhelming sense of love and peace and compassion coming from him as well, emanating from his soul up to mine. And really, the soul point is the heart, you know. That is where we connect to spirit. It is through love, it is through compassion, it is through unity that we connect with the all. There's a reason why the heart chakra itself is actually the bridge between the lower three senses of survival and the higher three senses of higher consciousness, because the heart unites the lower and the higher self in a shared unity. It helps us to accept ourselves and helps us to really stay anchored in the peace and the love of the divine. So what these races are also going to do is to really help us to develop our heart's capacity to connect not only with our own higher self through our intuition, but also to each other as well. To be able to communicate telepathically with one another is one of the next stages in our evolution. Okay. In higher ages, or yugas, as they're known in Vedic tradition, humanity had the ability to communicate telepathically. These abilities are not something that are really foreign or alien to us in that sense. They are innate to who we are, okay? It's just that human consciousness has been on this perpetual cycle of going up and rising and falling like waves. And we've recently just overcome a big fall. The Dark Ages was when we hit the lowest point, when around the time Yeshua, Jesus, was crucified. And then we're slowly beginning to rise up again now, but it's going to take a while for us to really shake off the hangover from the Dark Age so that we can really begin to awaken to our true nature again. Because during the Dark Age, or Kali Yuga, as it's known, as the the moon of ignorance really does eclipse the sun of our awareness, and this is why there's been over the last 2,000 years so much dogmatism, religious wars and hypocrisies, so many spiritual kind of superstitions and religious superstitions and all this nonsense that was created in the Dark Ages. A lot of it simply isn't true. A lot of it is just misinterpretation, basically. And we've really just come out of this age of ignorance and we're really beginning to understand the true nature of ourselves and reality again. And, one kind of symptom of that, or byproduct of that, should I say, will be regaining our power, regaining the abilities that we've always had. And one of those, again, is telepathic communication. When it comes to vocal communication, even though, people still struggle. Like people don't really, communicate with others to listen to their point of view with the intention of understanding them, understanding their perspective. They just want to reply or respond or defend themselves. We really need to learn how to communicate more effectively as a collective anyway. But I think if we can learn how to become more heart-centered and to develop that heart center and to live more from that heart center in a state of what Dr. Joe Dispenza likes to call heart coherence, then we'll be more unified within and without as a collective, because the collective differences that we see, the collective kind of fractures that are prevalent in our society are really a reflection of the kind of fracture that exists within our own energy fields, if you think about it. Because if we are, torn from within, then we're going to be torn from without as well. And most people living today are still torn from within. They don't really, accept themselves fully. They, are really in a battle within themselves between the higher and lower nature, and the key is to unite them, and living from your heart center can enable you to do that for sure. And this is one of the ways in which that these extraterrestrial beings are also going to be of assistance to us as well. Okay, day 2, visual and light language kind of communications. Okay, so there are some civilizations, as I said yesterday, there are some civilizations out there who do not speak using their vocal cords. This means that they don't even have like an alphabet. They don't even, some of them don't even have a name. Some beings out there, they're known by a symbol, for example. And some civilizations communicate telepathically by just sending one another like symbols, like visuals. They don't even communicate telepathically with words. They don't use that idea or concept at all. It's all just symbolism. They send each other symbols or visuals, or they send each other, pictures, or even the really advanced ones could even send people like previews of a future timeline that could potentially manifest to warn people, for example. Another way in which that these beings are communicating with us, and this has really, taken off in the last 10 years or so. A lot of people are on this planet now are capable of doing this already, and that is light language transmissions as well. Okay, and the thing about light language is that it's not really meant to make any sense to your intellect. It's the vibrational frequency that is coming from the words when they're uttered that you need to pay attention to, because those words are laced and coded with information that you can download as a result of listening to them. Light carries information. Okay, so if you love to stargaze, for example, like I do, you know, even if you were to just sit outside one night and focus on a particular star, I don't know, maybe you can download, if you don't know which star is which, maybe you can download a star map app on your phone or something to show you exactly what you're looking at. But let's just say you wanted to gaze upon Sirius, for example. And Sirius is the brightest star in the night sky. Its light is so radiant, okay? It's so powerful. And even just sitting there and allowing that Sirian light to penetrate your pupils is such a miraculous things can happen. You can receive downloads, information. Like my Kundalini awakening was triggered as a result of staring into the Sirian light one night. Like this stuff is real, and I'm speaking from experience here. So, light does carry information, especially starlight. Okay. Starlight is very powerful. And on that topic as well, you could even go as far as to say sun gazing too, you know, is another way of receiving codes, receiving activation codes and downloads from the sun, which is also a sentient being. The sun, Sirius, all of these stars, they're all sentient beings. They're their own consciousness that you can communicate with as well. This is why, like in Hinduism, for example, like they had a sun god, Surya, the sun god, because they realized that this great, exponent of light that we have at the center of our solar system, is, conscious, it's aware, and we can really tap into that frequency as well. Also, the stars are teeming with life as well. Teeming with life. Why is that? How is that even possible, you may wonder? Because on a different dimension, in the astral realm, astral means light, okay? If you're in your astral body, you're in your light body, okay? So on the astral plane from Earth, because the Earth is connected to the sun, many go to the sun as a kind of way station. They go into that, before transitioning into spirit altogether as well. So light language transmissions, are real things for sure. There are times when people believe they're channeling light language when they're not. That's, of course, is always going to happen at some point, but for the most part, people do have a good idea of what it means to, really decode light language. And I think when these extraterrestrial beings come down, they're going to help us take that up a notch or two as well, for sure. They're going to be teaching us different ways in which we can communicate light language. And it won't just be with the vocal cords either. There'll be telepathic light language. There'll be all sorts of different ways that these different forms of communication are linked and intertwined. And, some of the stuff that we really take for granted, but really does affect our reality, will become made more aware to us as well. Even the way that we just speak about ourselves drastically alters the matter all around us. Matter doesn't exist until it's being observed by somebody. So, like, I'm sitting in my bedroom right now recording this. Nobody's looking at the wall behind me. That wall doesn't exist. It's just a field of energy. But the moment I turn and look at it, then it becomes a wall. This is quantum physics. Like, matter exists in a state or a field of energy, you know, until it's observed by somebody. And yeah, it's just a miraculous kind of realm we're living in a sense, because everything is frequency, everything is vibration, and the words that come out of our mouth are frequency and vibrations as well. So if we're speaking kindly, softly, then we're going to affect the matter around us in a way that's more beneficial to us. If we, are speaking in alignment, you know, and not degrading ourselves, not, insulting others and mistreating them with our words and our cruel speech, then We're going to stay on higher timelines too. Okay, guys, so collective consciousness communication is the topic for today. What does this mean? Every civilization has its own collective consciousness, okay? What is a collective consciousness? Imagine the consciousness of every being upon the earth that is currently on the earth right now. Imagine that. Imagine that kind of collective consciousness into one expression. That is a collective consciousness. Mother Earth isn't just the earth herself, it's also the collective consciousness of the earth too, which includes the planet's consciousness as well. And different civilization, especially the advanced ones, the spiritually advanced ones, they are aware of how to communicate with their own collective consciousness as well. In a sense, the concept of Christ consciousness, Krishna consciousness, Buddha nature, all of these things are reflections of the collective consciousness of our planet. So these avatars of the divine that come down to, save humanity in some great way. So great that there are entire philosophies and religions created after they leave. That's how much of an impact they have upon the world and how much, of the divine light that they actually express. They come down to show us our true potential. They come down to say, okay, you can become just like me. That's the entire point of them coming down to the earth from the spirit and, being great examples of love, wisdom, compassion, kindness, and so on and so forth. But these are really embodiments of that collective consciousness as well. This is why they had, sometimes superhuman abilities, such as, healing blind or crippled people, raising the dead, walking on water. Krishna is believed to have lifted a mountain with his little finger. And there are many other of these avatars as well. Paramahansa Yogananda is one of them. Babaji is one of them. These are beings that are completely self-aware to the point that they are aware of the fact that they exist in everybody that is currently upon the earth because they are reflections of the planet's collective consciousness. This is why when somebody is visited by one of these luminous beings, it feels as if they've known them forever, and that's because they have, you know. Like I've had visitations from a few of them, and the love that comes from them is just on another level. It's just a different level of love. It's so overwhelming that you can't even keep yourself together. You're gonna cry when you feel it. Like it's just that powerful, you know. And that's really what these collective consciousnesses are. Yes, they are not God, okay, in the sense that, it's not everything. It's just limited to the planet itself or the star system. But it's kind of like a mini God. It's like a miniature version of the divine, okay? And this is why the Christ or the Krishna is known as the Son of God, because it's like a smaller version of that, you know, cosmic intelligence. So extraterrestrial civilizations are aware of their own planet's collective consciousness. Some of them don't really need to conceptualize it in the ways that we have. Very few civilizations in the entire universe have organized religions like our planet does. That's mainly due to Anunnaki interference, but all in all, when it comes to advanced civilizations, these avatars still do incarnate, but they're just recognized for what they truly are and seen, sorry, as, symbols of inspiration and upliftment instead of like people who they need to venerate and worship in that sense. And this is really all Krishna and Christ and Buddha intended to be. They just wanted to be the best example that they could be for us so that we can emulate them in our own way. So even Bashar's civilization are aware of their own collective consciousness as well. Okay. and the Pleiadians are. The Pleiadian one is interesting actually because if you look behind me here, there's a picture of the Pleiadian star systems, and the Pleiades is famously known as the Seven Sisters, right? But actually, um, there's way more than seven stars in the Pleiadian star cluster. It's like a mini nebula in a sense, so their collective consciousness is actually much more complex because there are minis within that too. For example, you've got the star system Atlas, or Maya in the Pleiades, or you've got Sagitta as well. So these star systems within that Pleiadian cluster in of themselves have their own collective consciousness as well. But then there's also a big one for the Pleiades too that includes them all. So, because the Pleiades live in such a densely confined and populated space within the universe or the galaxy, should I say, then, their collective consciousness is a lot more complex. Ours is much easier in a sense to understand, but theirs is like kind of symbolized by many kinds of beings that they venerate as well, not in a religious sense again, but they respect and look up to as idols of inspiration in that sense as well. Sometimes an avatar of Maya may incarnate on a planet orbiting Atlas, or vice versa. That sometimes happens as well because on an archetypal level, these star systems within the Pleiades, they represent different things as well. So if Atlas, for example, if there's a planet and any of the other stars in the Pleiades that is collectively lacking a bit of direction in some sense, then an avatar of Atlas will come in. Atlas is known as Atlas for a reason because it is kind of like connected to that energy of the North Node in astrology. It gives direction. It gives you direction, purposeful direction and guidance. And the Atlas energy, this is why we look at maps known as atlases as well. It's all interconnected. There's a reason why it's called what it is. So creative activities, if you've been a follower of my work for some time, you know that I'm always ranting and raving about creative action. Yeah. Creative action is one of the best ways to get the ego out of the way. This is why. And once the ego is out the way, then, many different levels of dimensionality can channel through you as a result of that. Okay. They can pop in there, boom, there's a thought, there's an idea, there's an inspiration. It's just about getting out of your own way. Ultimately, everything is God. Everything is that cosmic intelligence anyway. Okay. But creative activities is something that is going to be appreciated even more in the coming decades because of tools like AI, which are going to take many of the jobs that we have. Robots and AI are going to take many of the so-called day-to-day kind of jobs that we have. So it's going to free many of us to actually use our imaginations, in more of a creative way. Okay. And many of us will be utilizing AI as well to assist us in that realm in a sense too. But what I want to say here is that, another way that these beings interact with mankind is through creativity as well. Some people have this amazing idea just come to them out the blue sometimes, and they're like, "Oh my God, I've got the best idea," or they're given like the answer to an equation, like as a scientist, and it's like, "Oh, a eureka moment," without realizing that sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes they've been given that information. It's been downloaded to them specifically by an extraterrestrial being who feels like humanity is ready for this revelation now. There you go. That's simply how it works. Other ways in which that can happen, it can happen through the ascended masters, it can happen through angelic forces as well. It can happen simply via God, or again, the collective consciousness of the planet can do it too. There's many ways in which that kind of process can manifest, but sometimes it is also the result of extraterrestrial beings who are feeding or downloading information into your mind to help you with, sharing some vital information with humanity through your creative projects. And again, this could be through writing, it could be through songwriting, it could be poetry. Any kind of creative activity can be a doorway to higher states of consciousness. It can be a doorway for higher levels of multidimensional information to come through you as well. So do not underestimate the power of creative activities. The key to really getting in that state where you're going to be able to receive more levels, or should I say, more information from higher levels of dimensionality, is to, first of all, do not multitask. Okay. Whatever it is that you're doing, do not multitask at all. Okay. Make sure you're completely present and undistracted while performing the activity. Anything that you put your heart, mind, and soul into, the divine jumps in to help you with. Okay. Because your natural state of connectedness with that divine being comes through when you're completely present, when you're completely in the moment, when you're completely one with the activity. Okay. And then it doesn't even feel like you're doing anything at all. This is what Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita called the actionless state. Because even though your body's performing something on the level of your consciousness, you're not the doer. You're just the instrument through which the information is coming through you. And that is, the state through which all creative projects, all masterpieces are created. And again, some of the information and ideas that humanity's received through creative states has come from many different levels of dimensionality, many different sources, and some of them are indeed extraterrestrial as well. So creative activities will be something that, is also seen as a tool to help expand the collective consciousness of humanity even more. It already is in a sense, but way more in the future. And you're going to be finding as well some extraterrestrial beings coming down, and maybe doing some of the things that we do. Maybe we can explore some of the creative activities they have as well. There's going to be a lot of shared kind of, interactions in that sense. These extraterrestrial beings coming down are going to be wanting to know what it feels like to be a human being. And of course, we're going to want to know what it feels like to be Pleiadian or Syrian, to see the universe through their eyes in that sense. It's going to be a really fun and exciting journey that we all share together. Spiritual practices and techniques. Now, this is also going to be very important in the coming years, okay? Because what is going to happen is that these beings are going to come down from really high states of consciousness. That, like, what I'm trying to say here when I say that is, I don't think you understand just how advanced some of these races are. Like, imagine a civilization of Jesus, basically, of completely enlightened beings. Okay, some of these civilizations are just that, indeed. Okay, imagine an entire civilization full of these beings, but with advanced technology as well. It doesn't matter where you come from in the universe, what your planet looks like, what your physicality really is. Ultimately, you are consciousness and you are one with the divine. Yes. Thus, especially the races that have more of a physiology like we do. Okay, so like two arms, two legs, a spine, the chakra system, everything like that. These races in particular, right, are going to be sharing some really advanced breathing and meditative techniques with humanity as well. And some of them are going to be very eager to try some of ours too, such as Kriya Yoga, for example. You know, truth really is one in the sense that, the ultimate truth of any creative being is the fact that they are one with the universal ocean. Okay. Truth is, as they say in the Vedas, Sanatan. It is eternal. Okay? No matter what happens, Sanat Dharma will always be the truth, no matter where you go in the universe. So every being has come from spirit, and their job while they're incarnated in a physical or astral body is to rediscover their true nature as a wave upon that cosmic ocean of consciousness. That is the eternal truth for everybody. Now, it doesn't really mean that everybody will want to pursue that in this life, of course not. But if they want to truly free themselves from rebirth, then that is what they must do, ultimately. Everyone must find their way home. Everyone must find their way back home to the spirit, you know, and that is the eternal truth of all beings. And again, you've got entire races who have realized these truths. So imagine what they're going to do. Imagine what they're going to do when they come down and, see the spiritual tools and techniques that we've, got, and they're going to help us refine and restructure a lot of this so that we can utilize our chakra system and our kundalini and our energy levels and our breathing in a way that is more harmonious with our development as well. So when these beings come down, they're actually going to help accelerate the spiritual development of many people very quickly, very, very quickly. And some of these advanced techniques are also going to be implemented into the schools. The schools are going to become a lot more peaceful, a lot more grounded for the children who are growing up as well. There's going to be a lot of, you know, understanding and emphasis upon the educational systems as a whole, where they're going to be tailored to each child's specific passion and need and soul journey and soul contracts as well. For example, if you have a child who is destined to become a famous writer, then he doesn't really need to go to university to study like advanced mathematics. Of course, basic mathematics are necessary, but he needs to focus his energy solely upon what his soul contract needs. He needs to educate himself in those ways, and these races are going to come in and teach us how to identify what's in our soul contracts and the information that we really need to learn and to assimilate. And education will actually be true education. It won't be the dumbing down of our kind of inner child, which has always been a creative being. So all in all, creativity is something that is extremely powerful and miraculous, and we should do our best to really get into that creative state, because I know I spoke about the creativity yesterday, but where I'm trying to go with this is the creative and the meditative state for me is the exact same. When I'm truly in a creative state, okay, I'm also in a meditative state and vice versa. So the spiritual tools and practices that they're going to bring down for us is going to be great, because it's not only going to advance our creativity as well, but it's also going to help us to heal from the past more. The creative and the meditative state is kind of like a fire that burns away the neural pathways in the brain that are related to our past experiences, in a sense, the old self. Okay. So it's really important to learn how to get beyond yourself, because when you get beyond yourself, you find yourself. And this is something that, spiritual teachers on our planet have been teaching us now since time immemorial. But, as the consciousness of the planet expands and people are becoming more aware, now what's going to happen is these races are going to enable us to really stay anchored more in the now without those impressions of the past constantly pulling us out of it again. Sightseeing and traveling. Now, this is interesting because what's actually going to happen is at first, you know, these races coming to humanity, some of them are going to be coming here as tourists, not just as ambassadors or emissaries from their civilizations. Of course, all that official stuff is going to happen at first, but as things calm down a bit, as people become more settled in that reality that we are not alone, then what's going to happen is that we're going to be getting people coming into the planet. to come and visit some of the most beautiful locations on the world, and we're going to be making friends with extraterrestrial beings, and they're going to be flying in their ship, helping us to get to places instantaneously. If I wanted to go to Sedona, boom, we're there, you know, like sharing experiences together with these beings, visiting some of the best places in the world, going to see, I don't know, the statues on Easter Island or going to see the pyramids and stuff like that. All this is going to become a reality as well. People are going to be making friends with extraterrestrial beings and going on trips with them all around the world. And it's going to be a wonderful thing because the Earth is one of the most beautiful planets in the universe. It is one of the most beautiful, and it's almost like Edenic in a sense because it is just absolutely teeming with life, and it is just such a shame what we are doing to the planet. We are literally destroying the Garden of Eden. Like, we are literally doing that. So it's really important for us to learn how to appreciate our own planet more. And what's going to happen is, first of all, free energy devices are going to be implemented into society very quickly, and we are going to be helped in acclimating to that big change because obviously it's going to take a while for everybody to have their home rewired and everything like that, but we're going to be assisted there too. All the old wiring basically has to go away. We're also going to clean up the earth. We're going to clean the oceans, everything, and it's going to be miraculous. Day seven, finally, the last part of this course, we're just going to be talking about off-world trips and excursions. So, what is going to happen eventually is that human beings are going to develop a rapport with particular extraterrestrial beings and civilizations. Okay. And, as trust develops and your bond grows with particular beings, what's going to happen is you're going to be taken off world if you want to go. Of course, you'll always have the choice as to whether you go. They're not just going to abduct you and take you there. But if you want to visit the Pleiades, for example, you will be taken there. These beings are willing to take you there. They're willing to show you their culture, their world. You know, it's going to be scary, obviously, being that far away from home, light years away. But, the journey is instantaneous because these beings have, understood how to bend the fabric of space and time. So it's not going to be as daunting, as it may seem, because really, even though from a distance perspective, yes, we're so far away from the Pleiades, but ultimately we're just right here with them because it only takes a few seconds to get there, as a result of, bending the fabric of space and time. So if you look at it from that sense, everything is here. Everything is here right now. Again, the illusion of linear space and time really does include space too. Space itself is an illusion. Spatial awareness and everything and realities, yes, it has a reality in the physical domain, but it's still ultimately an illusion. Everything exists here and now. Everything, every reality, every realm, every planet, every star system, every universe, every galaxy, every dimension. It's all here. It's all accessible now, and these beings know how to access them. So being taken off world, just to enjoy yourself is going to be something that, is it's just going to be wonderful. It's going to be wonderful and really exciting. I really do hope this course has helped enlighten you to some degree, and helped you to really stand in your power. It's really up to people like yourself now to really help prepare the rest of humanity for this upcoming reality that we are all going to be experiencing together. These beings are coming out of the shadows because they're already here. Okay. They're hiding in a subtler plane of existence right now, just waiting for us to be ready, and don't listen to all of the garbage about the wars and all that stuff. That is not your reality. Okay. Your reality is the amazing reality that is incoming. Okay. Before 2030, humanity will know without a shadow of a doubt that we are not alone in the universe. Okay. and it is coming a lot quicker than you think. Okay, so get ready. This is the moment in which, for which you incarnated at this specific time. Okay, in human history. This is the single biggest event in human history that is going to occur, and who knows? It may just be tomorrow.